The name topic is the fundamentals of group behavior. And today we start talking with a phrase by Friedrich Nietzsche. Insanity is the exception in an individual, but the rule in groups. Groups can be classified, and this dependent on the classification is the definition attributed to them. Groups are defined as two or more people where they engage in interactions, are often interdependent, and come together to achieve goals. And from these, two groups are generated. The first is the formal, and the second is the non-formal. Formal groups are those that define the structure of the organization with assigned jobs that establish tasks. The behavior of this group of individuals is stipulated by the organizational goals and are directed to the fulfillment of these goals. And the other, the non-formal, these groups are alliances that are neither formally structured nor determined by the organization. Next, we have types of groups. Common groups, task groups, interest groups, and the friendly groups. We have a table with the types of groups. The first is a common group. This group is determined by the organization chart of the company and composed of individuals reporting directly and assignment agent. The second is the task groups. Is determined by the organization, the same. They represent those who work together to perform and tasks included in their duties. The third is the interest group. People who have a common goal that interests them. For example, in this topic, in this type of group, we can say the football team it's a little example. And the last is the friendly groups, those that have common characteristics and know as social alliances. Okay. People usually gather in groups for various reasons, including this security, status, self-esteem, belonging, power, and goal attainment. In their evolution, groups usually go through a standardized sequence, called a 5-stage model of a group's development. We have 5. The first is formation. The second storm stage, the third normalization stage, and the fourth is performance, and the last is completion stage. For the first, this is characterized by the great deal of uncertainty about the purpose, structure, and leadership of the group. The second is the storm stage, and it is the conflict within the group. The members accept the existence of the group but resist the limitation it is imposed of individuality. In addition, there is conflict over who will control the group. When this stage ends, there are relative clear hierarchy of leadership within the group. The third, this is a stage where close relationships are developed and the group demonstrates cohesion. There is a strong sense of identifying the camaraderie in the group. The performance, at this point, the structure is functional and fully accepted. The energy of the group has shifted from knowing and understanding each other to carrying out the task at hand. And the last is completion stage. In this stage, the group prepares for disarray. High performance in its work is no longer its main priority, but the focus is on completing activities. At this stage, group's members respond vary some as praising the group's achievements, others are depressed by the loss of camaraderie and the friendship gaining during the group's life. Now, the There are also times groups, but they have deadlines. These, according to studies, have their own unique sequence of action, and the first sequence that the direction of the group is established in the second. The first phase of this activity of the group is inertia, and the end of it takes a place, would you say, transition, to have a model pattern of like a zigzagging equilibrium, or also known as dot. Now the group properties. Groups are not just about forming and reading. They bring with them roles, norms, status, size, and cohesion. For its parts, the rules, sets of expected behavior patterns attribute to some who occupies a given position in the social unit. Basically, it is the members of group are actors, and each one plays a role, like the TV, like the actuation. Within the rule, there are identities, perception, expectations, and conflicts. The second is the identities, and this role are real attitudes and behavior compatible with a rule. This is when certain role identities are created. People can change roles quickly when they recognize that the situation and its demands clearly require big change. For role perception, certain types of behaviors are developed here based on the interpretation of our beliefs about how we should behave. The role expectations are defined as the way the others believe that some should act in each situation, which could be determined in part by the role defined in the context in which they act. Then the last role, conflict. This arises when an individual is confronted by divergent expectations of roles. That is, the individual believes that the fulfillment of what one role requires make it more difficult to fulfill another. Now, we have talked about the roles and status. They are different, but in a way, to could go hand in hand. These two could complement each other. The first, the norms. They are the acceptable standards of behavior shared by members of group. And for other part, the rules tell them what it in certain circumstance they should expect and what they should not expect. The norms cover virtually all aspects of group behavior. Within the same norms, we find the performance norm, the presentations norms, the social agreement norms, and the resource allocation norms. On the other hand, we find called conformity, which is the assessment of one's own behavior to follow the rules of the group. When we and we have status. When we speak of status, we are referring to the position or social rank to define others, whether groups or members of one. At this term exists worldwide. Status is an important factor in understanding human behavior because it's a significant motivator and has significant behavioral consequence when individuals perceive a discrepancy between the status they believe they have and they perceive by others.